Daniel Defoe, one of the most versatile and influential writers of the early 18th century, is best remembered for his groundbreaking novel Robinson Crusoe. However, his life extended far beyond fiction. He was a journalist, political commentator, pamphleteer, and spy whose career mirrored the turbulence and transformation of England during his lifetime. His writings captured the spirit of a rapidly changing society, and his life story itself is a fascinating tale of ambition, adversity, and resilience. Early life and education. Daniel Defoe was born in London in 1660, just 2 years after the restoration of King Charles II. His family name was originally Foe, which he later changed to Defoe in his 30s, perhaps to give it a more aristocratic sound. His father, James Foe, was a prosperous tallow chandler, candle maker, and a devout Presbyterian. From an early age, Daniel was exposed to strong religious influences and the dissenting traditions that would shape much of his later political and literary work. Defoe attended the Reverend Charles Morton's Academy at Newington Green, one of the leading dissenting academies of the time. Since nonconformists were barred from attending Oxford or Cambridge, this academy provided an alternative education emphasizing modern subjects such as science, history, and languages rather than strictly classical studies. This progressive education broadened Defoe's outlook and prepared him for the dynamic commercial and political world of London. Early career and business ventures. Before turning to literature, Defoe was an ambitious businessman. In his early 20s, he engaged in various commercial enterprises, including trading in wine, wool, and tobacco. However, like many merchants of his era, Defoe's fortunes were volatile. He experienced both success and ruin multiple times, often due to risky investments or political disruptions. His involvement in large-scale speculative ventures, such as a plan to establish diving apparatus for salvaging sunken treasure, ended disastrously, leaving him bankrupt more than once. Despite these financial setbacks, Defoe's experiences as a merchant deeply influenced his writing. He developed a keen understanding of the economic forces shaping 18th-century England: the rise of the middle class, the expansion of trade, and the growth of capitalism. These themes would later appear prominently in his novels and essays. Political involvement and imprisonment. Defoe's political life was as eventful as his business career. A committed dissenter, he supported the Protestant succession and opposed absolutist rule. His first significant foray into public life came in the 1680s when he joined the ill-fated rebellion of the Duke of Monmouth against King James II. Although Defoe escaped serious punishment, the event marked his lifelong opposition to tyranny and religious persecution. After the Glorious Revolution of 1688, which brought William III to the throne, Defoe became an enthusiastic supporter of the new regime. He wrote political pamphlets defending William and promoting religious tolerance. One of his most famous early works, The True-Born Englishman, 1701, was a satirical poem attacking xenophobia and celebrating England's diversity. The poem became immensely popular and established Defoe's reputation as a skilled polemicist. However, Defoe's sharp political commentary often landed him in trouble. In 1702, he published The Shortest Way with the Dissenters, a satirical pamphlet that mocked the intolerance of the Anglican establishment by pretending to advocate for the harsh persecution of dissenters. Unfortunately, many readers failed to recognize the irony, and Defoe was arrested for seditious libel. He was pilloried, a public humiliation that could have destroyed his career, but public sympathy turned in his favor when he wrote A Hymn to the Pillory, a witty poem mocking his persecutors. Eventually, he was released after being recruited as a secret agent by Robert Harley, a leading statesman. Journalism and literary career. Following his release, Defoe became one of England's first professional journalists. He founded the Review in 1704, a periodical that ran for nearly a decade and covered politics, trade, religion, and social issues. The publication was remarkable for its sophisticated analysis and conversational tone, foreshadowing the modern newspaper column. Through the Review, Defoe established himself as a major voice in public debate and as a defender of moderation and common sense. Defoe was nearly 60 years old when he published Robinson Crusoe in 1719, his most famous work and a landmark in English literature. The novel, inspired partly by the story of a real castaway named Alexander Selkirk, tells of a man's survival and self-reliance on a deserted island. Beyond its thrilling adventure, Robinson Crusoe reflects Defoe's themes of individualism, faith, and economic enterprise. The book's realism, detailed descriptions, and moral introspection made it a prototype for the modern novel. Encouraged by Crusoe's success, Defoe went on to write other notable novels, including Moll Flanders, 1722, A Journal of the Plague Year, 1722, Colonel Jack, 1722, and Roxana, 1724. These works depicted the lives of ordinary people, especially women and the poor, struggling within the harsh realities of 18th century society. His portrayals were remarkably human and psychologically complex, demonstrating his deep empathy and acute social observation. Later years and death. Despite his literary success, Defoe never achieved financial stability. He continued to write prolifically, producing essays, political tracts, and histories under various pseudonyms. His later years were marked by illness, debt, and personal disappointment. Defoe often had to hide from creditors, and some of his last works were written in secret. He died in 1731, likely of a stroke, while living in relative obscurity in London. He was buried in Bunhill Fields, a burial ground for nonconformists. Legacy. Daniel Defoe's legacy is immense. He is widely regarded as one of the founders of the English novel, pioneering realistic storytelling and the psychological depth that would influence later writers such as Charles Dickens and Jane Austen. His combination of journalism, fiction, and social commentary helped shape modern prose and established literature as a means of exploring the human condition within the economic and moral frameworks of modern life. Defoe's life mirrored his fiction, restless, inventive, and full of contradictions. He was a dissenter who worked with governments, a moralist who wrote about rogues, and a failed businessman who immortalized the virtues of self-reliance and perseverance. Through his works, Daniel Defoe captured the spirit of an age in transition and left an indelible mark on English literature and thought.